Right now, we got Marius Bahnean with us from Masters University. He's an associate professor of music and a director of choral activities. And Marius, thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
So I know you didn't come here for this, but we were talking about this earlier. And I was talking to my wife about this last night. She was listening to a promo for a movie, and she's like, "Well, that music's kind of creepy." And I'm going,
Right.
"Yeah, well, it's supposed to be creepy. It's a horror movie." But in the older movies, it was the music kind of set the tone. It kind of got you going to, all right, the killer's around the corner. You know,
That's right.
something's getting ready to happen. I don't see that as much now, but you find it's true, right? I mean, it's
It
what
is
they
very
went
true.
looking for.
And we still have those composers. John Williams is a prime example of that, which knows exactly how to write music to evoke a certain feeling in the audience. And that's exactly what he's going for. And he's watching the screen, what the action is, and that's the music that he's pasting basically on that.
Now, I feel like, and you can speak well about this, is when it comes to like musicians and composers, I've heard a lot of them say that when it comes to composing music for like film and television, it's very simple. It's very rudimentary. It's very kind of like, I want you to feel this emotion, so this is kind of like my set chords to do it, versus say something that's a little bit more classical or traditional.
Well, it can be simplistic, yes, and that has a place, and that evokes a certain simplicity in the emotions, but it's extremely complex if you think about it, because you're trying to persuade the audience to feel a certain emotion as they're watching this movie. So that's not a small task as a composer to come up with some sort of short theme that's very catchy, but it also evokes that. So there's you have to be very proficient at writing music, any kind of music, to write for the movies, because you will make use of certain classical, quote-unquote classical traits in the music that you're doing, because of course the masters of the classical repertoire fully understood the human emotion range. So as a movie composer, you tap into that and you still develop a well thought out theme that evokes those.
What would you say is the secret sauce, or the good element? What makes a good theme?
A good theme is very formal, what we call musically, which means that it develops and it unfolds orally in very clear-cut sections, usually what we call a two-measure plus a two-measure phrase. And that seems to be a very complete and well-rounded, fully exhibited kind of musical phrase, musical idea that sticks with us. We like symmetry as human beings. We love symmetry. And everybody figured out that if you write a symmetrical musical phrase, that's why melodies are usually constructed by 8-measure phrases.
Yeah.
They're very short, very to the point.
Wow.
You know, you think of the differences between something like jazz and Halloween, for instance, right?
Right.
Jazz is just, what, 2 or 3 notes?
Yeah.
Very subtle. But what they use, I
What
don't
the
know if
effect
it's a
of
tuba, French horn, whatever they're using,
instruments.
it grabs you, right?
That's right.
And then you get to Halloween, and it's just that dun 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 dun.
There's a certain rhythm element to the melody that you can play with, and that definitely evokes something else. Yeah,
And
rhythm and melody.
Yeah.
And you can't get away from it, right?
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
You know when it's coming, something's ready to happen. But music plays a big part of everything, actually.
Absolutely. You hear it all around us at all times, every single time.
Okay, so I have to go into something here that has been itching my brain a little bit, is because you have some degrees in specifically.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
You've got a couple of degrees. Yeah, I would.
You have
say
just a few degrees here, but one or actually 2 here in conducting, specifically conducting.
It's so funny. I was going to go ahead.
But the biggest thing to me is like there's like a big difference I've seen between like someone who's conducting, say, a jazz ensemble versus like a classic orchestral, and it seems like the orchestral is almost like the conductor is kind of lagging behind the musicians. How does that whole thing work?
Typically, because you have a larger ensemble, you have to find what we call the place where everybody comes in together at the same time. And by the time the people on the very far end of the orchestra at the back see your hand move down, of course, their reaction time is going to lag a little bit. So as a as an orchestral conductor, you're always gonna, not always, but most of the time, you'll see yourself a little bit ahead of the beat. But that's not to say that that's just normal all the time. It depends on the amount of musicians you have on stage in front of you. Jazz ensembles, a lot smaller, and they're all about rhythm, precision. Orchestras are too, but because there's less people in the drum section, rhythm section in the jazz ensembles, then you become less and less active as a conductor. You just kind of point, start, finish. It's your turn now. Let's wrap it up. That's kind of the gestures you make.
So that almost sounds, because I'm a drummer. Joe is a drummer. And that almost feels a little difficult because it sounds like you have to have your own kind of beat that you're going to. That's a little bit, syncopated with the rest of the orchestra.
And you get used to that because especially with the strings, they have so many mechanics. By the time they actually start sliding the bow on the strings, you have to wait for that sound to come to you so that everybody's kind of locked in the rhythm pocket, even though the conductor is just slightly ahead. But not much, and you get used to it, and it's just, you're actually on time with everybody.
All right, awesome.
Well, my mindset, though, goes to, they're all reading music. It's got to be tough to read your music and watch the conductor at the same time. But, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if the conductor walked off stage and they stayed with their music, could they not keep the rhythm on their own? Could they not keep...
They could. It wouldn't be as tight. So usually if the conductor's not there, what they do is they watch the first chair's violin bow. And that tells them exactly what the rhythm is. the rhythm of the bow that moves up and down on the violin, that's kind of how they do it. But it becomes more difficult for everybody to stay together, even though they intensely listen to each other in an orchestra. So.
See, that's interesting, because like I said, I took it for granted if you're in the groove, so to speak, and you're doing the music, then you kind of know where you should be. But I would imagine getting that many musicians together
synced.
And
That's
movie, you can end up with a lot of chaos, right?
Yeah.
It's a great feeling, let me tell you that much. So.
Yeah, if you're just joining us right now, we've been talking to Marius Bahnean from Masters University, the Associate Professor of Music and Director of Choral Activities over there. Tell us a little bit about the program over at Masters and what you guys offer.
Yeah, the School of Music, Paul T. Plus School of Music, is a buzzing, wonderful school of music. We have a great array of majors from Bachelor of Music and Performance, all the instruments and voice, to BA in piano pedagogy and orchestration, BMs in composition, music education. So all the basic undergraduate music programs, concentrations are there. And then coming up next week, Friday, November the 8th at 7:30, we have our first orchestra concert. I title it the Harmonies of Sound, because we're doing an array of what we call neoclassical works. So Sergei Prokofiev's Classical Symphony, and we're pairing that with Haydn's The Miracle Symphony 96, and the whole point of that is to show the progress of classical music from a very strict tonal, very formal way into a new formal and new tonal realm, hence the Harmonies of Sound title. So that's next Friday, November 8th at 7:30 at the Masters University on campus.
You know, we had, a while back, we had a little classical music quiz, and this is going to sound ridiculous probably to somebody like you, but I was answering them all right, and she said to me, "How do you know these?" I go, "Saturday morning cartoons. How does anybody know these?" and
That's
a lot.
true, yeah.
Come on, it's true, a lot in the. I don't know if they still do it now. I don't watch cartoons anymore, but we were exposed to a lot of the classics during Saturday morning cartoons.
This is very true,
Yeah,
and they had one of the funniest scenes is Bugs Bunny playing the piano, and what he was playing, it was a Rachmaninoff piece, which is extremely difficult, and everybody was exposed to that. So I think they still do to some extent, but not so much.
I mean, but when vinyl was first emerging, the best-selling genre was classical music on the vinyl.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy classical. I could name a piece. I could recognize pieces when they come up, but I enjoy classical music when I'm doing some work or trying to get something done.
Yeah.
I think it does. It changes your mindset, puts you in a different frame of mind. So
That's right.
Yes, I know. Anyway, it's been a pleasure having you here today. I can't wait
Likewise.
to have you back again.
Yeah.
We probably didn't talk about exactly what you wanted to.
No,
but,
that's fine. We
but
went-
this stuff is what the average person
It's very important.
soaks in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thanks for being here. Listening to Trending SCV here at KHCS AM 1220 FM 98.1. Be back in a minute.